Hello and welcome to GKL's plug-in hybrid review on the new BMW 330e. From side profile it looks like a standard 3 Series M Sport car. They haven't had to change anything with the vehicle in terms of side profile. It looks like anything from a 320 diesel all the way up to a 335. Okay, from the back we've got these new LED lights again, which are on all the new 3 Series, and in the boot you'll notice a slightly raised level compared to a standard car. Again, this is because of the hybrid system and the battery and the motor setup. Under here is where you keep your cables. The car only comes with a 3-pin plug cable, and this is an extra for type 2 cable for public charging. I'll be honest, I've been really impressed with it. It's probably the closest thing I've driven with an engine to the similar driving dynamic as Tesla Model 3, and at the moment I can see this car being a very much in the mix when company car drivers are deciding on their next vehicle, when they're comparing it to Tesla Model 3. Obviously Model 3 comes with the benefit of no fuel, obviously it comes with the benefit of zero benefit in kind. However, this, because it has an engine as well as an electrical system, gives you the benefit of that slightly better flexibility. Now in electric mode, this will do up to, like I say, up to 35 miles. I think reality it will probably do about 30, just over 30 miles. It has a larger battery than its predecessor and has a slightly larger battery than a lot of the other plug-in hybrids on the market, which does mean that it does take that little bit longer to charge because obviously it's got a bigger battery. So the cable that's supplied with it is fine for home use and kind of overnight charge, but I think you're going to need the type 2 cable to make it really usable and to be able to charge it as often as possible, because to be honest that's when this thing does perform at its best, when it's got as much electricity in the battery as possible. It feels to me very much like not an old BMW but a very sort of very good to drive rear wheel drive BMW with really good balance. I think that's helped with the positioning of, because it's a hybrid, because of the weight of the batteries, the weight of the extra motor, they've put that towards the rear of the vehicle, and then you've got the engine in the front to balance it out. So I actually think you get a better balance with this car than you would with the diesel. When we drove the diesel, it's a great car, and compared to other diesels, very, very good to drive. But when you compare it to this, I actually think this is better balance, which BMW have always been about 50-50 weight distribution and dynamic drive, and I think this particularly does a better job of it. Just run through the different modes that it runs in. So at the moment we've got a hybrid mode which optimises both, which is what we're doing at the moment. What's quite handy is that on the display we don't have a rev counter in this mode, we have a percentage of power used, and then what it will do periodically, it will give you how much electrical power you can have. So for example, obviously percentage, it goes from 0 to 100%, and then every now and again there'll be a blue section that comes up and it will say eDrive, and so for example at the moment it's giving me up to 40% power will be dealt with by the eDrive. This changes depending on how much charge you've got in the battery. So So when you've not got a lot of charge in the battery, it will drop that down to 20%, which is really kind of round town driving. So it does kind of change and give you that option to try and optimize both power units, and does it pretty well. The other thing it's quite good at as well is giving you a couple of miles of self-charge when it's not been plugged in. So I had a situation yesterday when I had a longer journey to do and didn't have a lot of charge in the battery. By the time I got close to where I was going and doing lower speeds after being on the motorway, it gave me a couple of miles. And what that couple of miles allowed me to do was predominantly drive around town in electric mode without having to fire the engine up, which ultimately what this kind of car should be doing no matter what make and model. You know, the idea is that open road you're using both power units, and then when you get into a city you're using just the electrical power. Whilst it's in hybrid mode, you can then change it to, you can actually manage the battery, which is a really good feature. It's something I mentioned would be a good idea in the last video. So you can actually manage how much of the battery power it uses, and you can set a target value. I mean, really giving you control of how you want to drive your own car, which I think's brilliant. So in battery control, the other thing you can do is go into Eco Pro whilst in hybrid, and that will purely optimize everything to try and get you the best MPG possible, whether it's via the engine, not giving you that full power, not giving you that takeoff power that you would normally have, trying to be as efficient as possible. I would imagine you could probably use that more often than not, and then when you needed to, put it in sport. So a massive part of BMW's ethos is like efficient dynamics, something that came out quite a long time ago now, when they introduced the first 109 CO2 exec salute, which was the 3 Series 320D ED, as it was called, a bit of a mouthful, but so they had this thing about, you know, it needs to be efficient, but it also needs to be dynamic, because at the end of the day, this is meant to be a nice car to drive. So to help along with that, obviously there's a sport mode. Now, if you push it into sport, all the dials change, and you get an extra boost system. So your engine will constantly kick in, and then it starts to use the battery as a boosting system as opposed to an eco system. And again, it just gives you the option. There's lots of manufacturers that have produced plug-in hybrids only with that in mind, and then you've got a lot of manufacturers that have produced lots of plug-in hybrids with only eco in mind. Well, this seems that what BMW have done is given the control back to the driver to say, well, you decide. If you want to use more fuel but drive it quicker, more dynamically, it's up to you. If you want to use less fuel, more electric, and want to get from A to B, then use it like this. And I think that's a really, really good way of optimizing these kind of systems for, at the end of the day, the people actually driving the car. So in sport mode, you might hear this, you might not. When you put your foot down, gives you a different exhaust note, gives you a massive amount of power. Also uses something called extra boost. So this is at the top of the range. So on your dial that goes up to 100%. There's also, like, I don't know, I suppose it's like turning it up to 11. So what it then does is give you the extra boost via the battery, to give you that extra power. It's only available, it's not available all the time. It's only available when you need it. So like, you know, overtaking maneuvers, when you need that extra kick just to get you past something, or however you want to use it, it is there available. It's there available more often when you've got charge in the battery. So that kind of takes us back to what we were saying about, you know, trying to keep this thing charged as often as possible, because you will get the best out of it. You won't get the best out of this car all round in terms of driving, in terms of how it feels on the road, in terms of acceleration, in terms of performance, MPG wise or anything, unless you keep that battery charged. So to charge, we're using a Type 2 charger, very typical public charger. We're using our additional cable, and I stress that, do not get this car without this cable. Charge point on the side of the car. Plug it in. Now at the other end, for your Type 2 charger and public charging, you've usually got to use an app on your phone, or you've got to use an RFID card. Here we use an RFID card, just this. Put it on the charger, waiting authorization, choose your plug. Stays green, which means you can access the charge. Goes yellow to say it's about to be ready, and then it will eventually turn blue. And then when you go to the car, you've got that blue glowing light, which means that the car is charging. This type of charger will charge this from flat to just over 30 miles in about 2.5 hours. However, if you're using a standard 3-pin plug, such as what you get with the car, it comes with a big box on it and a standard plug that goes into the car, the other end in your wall socket, you're going to at least double that charging time. The previous model was good anyway, and it has improved on it. It's not just a facelift, it's not just we've taken the kind of architecture and just put a new dress on it on the outside to make it look nice. It is a different car from the previous one. Like I say, I think it's actually, there's been an eye when they've redone the new 3 Series as it is. I think there has been an eye on the fact that this drivetrain is going to go into it. The previous model, I would guess, you know, something that came along and their engineers had to deal with what was essentially the car as it was then. Whereas this time round, they've been able to be involved from day one, and it really does show. It really does show with this car. I hope all the other manufacturers that are due to bring out new products this year will do the same, because if they don't, this is going to stand out against the competition, definitely. So yeah, I'm impressed.
For more information and business lease rates on this as well as any other vehicle, get in touch via the website or call us. And don't forget to like or leave a comment below.